Now, following on from our last video, where we discussed the defences available to Segmentum Solar in detecting then subsequently repelling an attack from an inter-segmentum threat, we'll investigate fully what Chaos forces are available to the War Master to aid in his ultimate ambition of claiming the throne world for himself in the current era. As the one being charismatic enough to possess not only the favour of all four major Chaos deities, but also able to unite every major Chaos faction within the setting, Abaddon has, at his disposal, an alarming range of specialists, ranging from mundane psychopathic cultists to sorcerers whose power rivals that of Magnus the Red himself, and even corrupted Titan legios. However, the Imperium is nothing if not enduring, having survived countless major conflicts against corrupted powers throughout the millennia. Right? But what if Abaddon, War Master of Chaos, were to muster an army the size of which has never been seen, a veritable galaxy-wide horde of traitors and abominations who wants nothing more than to pursue their own ends at mankind's expense and tear the God Emperor from his golden throne? Abaddon himself, within his recent Arcs of Omen book, has stated that he will only attack Terra from a position of absolute advantage, assured, without any doubt, his forces will be triumphant in their efforts. Given Abaddon's very soul is constantly sought after by each of the four, he has also sworn that he will not vow allegiance to any particular deity for the strength to aid him in his final 10,000-year-old ambition. We can certainly understand this latter statement. Abaddon has forever thought Horus a fool for putting so much stock in the so-called gods, and Abaddon is not one to suffer fools or repeat errors. But if he were to not rely on power or demonic boons granted him by the Pantheon, how would he otherwise go about attacking the most well-defended realm in all the galaxy? Well, let's detail some of the immense resources at Abaddon's disposal, backed up by the most recent lore we have available. Firstly, almost 86% of our viewers aren't subscribed, which means we could potentially have a channel around 50,000 subs if everyone chose to. I've definitely noticed that when we don't do strictly new lore, that the subs and views drop drastically. So please come and show your support by giving the videos a watch and choosing to sub and like. This gets YouTube to push the videos out to an even bigger audience. So thanks so much. Okay, let's mention that in our last video, we said we'd be introducing some wildcards, and so the Despoiler's forces have competition. Hive Fleet Leviathan has pierced the Sanctus line in Segmentum Pacificus, a threat you can learn more about in this video. Major tendrils of the Tyranid threat are loose, wreaking havoc in Terra's home system of Sol. Their fleet assets are veritable stone's throw from the throne world, whilst the Silent King, recently deciding to preserve mankind for his own nefarious ends, may actually prove an unlikely ally to humanity, not wanting the Tyranid race to consume the throne world, pushing the human species closer to extinction, and so equally important, would seek to ensure the Chaos Pantheon is not victorious. Firstly, let's run through the resources Abaddon has at his disposal were he to unite the disparate Chaos factions for a push on Terra. Following that, we'll explore these wild cards such as Hive Fleet Leviathan, the Silent King, and the likelihood of the Lion and Rebute again failing to defend the Imperial Palace. Now, during our first video, we discussed Segmentum Solar's Void assets first, and really, possessing his own fleet assets to combat and also circumnavigate the Imperiums is going to be key to successfully penetrating Segmentum Solar past the initial Mandeville zone, let alone moving threatening, combat-effective resources close enough to the throne world to achieve the aim of either capturing Terra or murdering the Emperor. Hopefully both. In all of the Terran sieges we've experienced that pit enemies of the Imperium against the throne world, these are the Horus Heresy, War of the Beast, and Khorne's Legion's most recent attack, hard-hitting assets were able to bypass Terra's outer segmentum security using etheric means. We'll just make that clear. We're referring to enemies outside of the Imperium sieging Terra, so this doesn't include the siege in which Macarius' allies overthrew Ghost Van Dyer, or the Imperial Fist successors' battle against the mad High Lord Draken Vangerich. During the heresy, a ritual conducted by the Thousand Sons and Word-Bearers saw them opening a massive tear in reality which transitioned thousands of traitor vessels right near Terra and Luna themselves, while Sons of Horus and Iron Warrior detachments provided second and third waves through Sol's warp gates, the Chthonic at Pluto and Elysian Gate at Uranus. In the War of the Beast, the Orcs' attack moon utilised the Beast's famed warp tunnels to jump directly from Ulanor, otherwise known as Armageddon, straight over Terra. Also, whilst more recently during the formation of the Great Rift, Khorne leapt at the chance to tear a hole in reality, marching forth his demonic legions onto Terra also. Now, whilst these more etheric type strategies could certainly be employed by the Despoiler given the favour he bestows upon the various corrupted seers and sorcerers of his court, there is a duality which exists within Abaddon. On one hand, he is known to hold stock in the visions and prognostications of psykers, such as Zerafistan or Moriana, whilst alternatively the Despoiler, for all his seniority among traitors, still considers himself a brother Astartes. His leadership style is harsh as it is simultaneously steeped in ancient traditions of legio camaraderie. And so, considering these facts, do you believe Abaddon's siege plan will follow much the same course as his father Horus's once did? Or will the Despoiler, as he is so often wont to do, forge his own bloody road to victory? We'll explore this more deeply now, but note in the comments or over in our Discord how you think you'd go about it. As of the current timeline, Abaddon possesses dozens of void ships you've likely heard of, the Arks of Omen. Whilst we aren't fully aware of how many of these vessels have been destroyed by the efforts of the Imperium in general and the Lion, along with his Risen, it's doubtful that only a handful remain, with likely dozens of Arks remaining under the authority of Abaddon. But these aren't just large ships per se, they're fundamentally space hulks, which in themselves are threatening enough, but packed into these arcs are thousands upon thousands of traitor shock troops. What potentially makes these Arks of Omen key to a successful invasion of Segmentum Solar, however, is that each vessel has upon it a creation of Vashtor the Archiphanes called an Obeliskane. Essentially what this does is act as a beacon to other vessels within the same fleet as the Ark. When transitioning through the warp, a journey which is known to scatter the cohesion of fleets often, an Ark's allied vessels can simply use this Obeliskane to ensure all stay safe and maintain their cohesion. In this way, traitor vessels can make the jump from warp to real space intact, whilst presenting a united front ready to enact whatever foul strategy they're following. Sounds like an ideal, reliable way to guide a powerful, cohesive fleet where it needs to be, deep within Sol. Not only does the Despoiler wield powerful ships such as the Arks, however, given a well-planned, determined attack on the resting place of the God Emperor will doubtless attract the most powerful traitor Astartes and even Primarchs, there are a slew of notorious vessels which are either already within Abaddon's possession or would no doubt pledge their service to him. Abaddon himself retains both the Vengeful Spirit as well as the Planet Killer, the latter a vessel of literal planet-breaking capability which first appeared during the 12th Black Crusade, also known as the Gothic War. Abaddon's often traitorous ally, I'll use that term loosely, Huron Blackheart, was gifted a Blackstone fortress by Abaddon, and then there are numerous ships whose murderous escapades over the millennia have left a traumatic mark on the Imperium's very soul. Vessels such as Angron's Conqueror, Typhus Terminus S, Fulgrim's Pride of the Emperor, or Magnus Silver Towers, but to name a few. And so were Abaddon, his recent ally Vashtor, or a particular member of the Thousand Sons, to work on a way to exit the warp close to Terra, or at least bypassing a lot of the Segmentum's outer defences, such as through the warp gates, delivered into the heart of Imperial power would be a chaos fleet of such devastating destructive capability, the likes of which hasn't been encountered since the Horus Heresy, or maybe even never at all. And that's well and good, but in order to neutralise enemy vessels via boarding action, capture outposts, and most importantly, make planetfall to invade Terra, Abaddon requires a backbone of hardy, dedicated infantry. But as with all things chaos, exact or even remotely accurate numbers are impossible to know because of their very nature. It's chaotic after all. Always in a constant flux of not only war but even self-destruction, some chaos forces even exist in the past or future, especially the demonic. Let's give it a try though, and let me know your thoughts on this or anything I've missed. Firstly, the Black Legion is said to right now greatly outnumber any other Chaos Warband or even current Legion, and given that the Word-Bearers Marines' numbers were rumoured to rival that of the Ultramarines, the largest pre-heresy legion at 250,000 bodies, this is a truly massive amount of Marines between both the Black Legion and Word-Bearers respectively. Huron Blackheart has, between his own gene crafting efforts and welcoming into his ranks thousands of traitor Astartes, grown his own legion. That's right, it's rumoured that the Red Corsairs' numbers now rival that of their pre-heresy counterparts. This could be anywhere from just under 100,000 to well over this, with the largest legion, the Ultramarines, said to number 250,000. We'll note that Games Workshop doesn't tie themselves down establishing exact numbers within the lore, for understandable reasons, so keep that in mind guys. Other traitor legions are hard to estimate for various reasons. Angron's World Eaters are fractured and insane, the Thousand Sons suffered from the rubric of Ahriman, the Emperor's children are also scattered throughout the warp and real space, given their inclination to pursue their own sensations or lofty aspirations. The Alpha Legion are a complete unknown, even to the Alpha Legion. The Iron Warriors likely number quite highly, and the Night Lords are extremely scattered due to their piratical nature, though we have hope Decimus from Aaron Dembski-Bowden's Night Lords novels may draw his legion together. As an approximate rounding of numbers, let's go with the following. Black Legion 250,000, Word Bearers 200,000, Red Corsairs 80,000, Iron Warriors 150,000, Death Guard 120,000, Thousand Sons 80,000, and the other four legions 100,000 each. This is an approximate 1,280,000 highly trained and motivated transhuman warriors. Keep in mind that each legion while sieging Terra will be required to maintain their own empires and outposts. They aren't going to throw everything at Terra, bar perhaps the World Eaters, so we'll keep aside 20% of this total for that reason. This translates to 1,024,000 traitor Astartes. And besides these original legions, there exists a wealth of traitor Space Marines who would jump at the opportunity to be included in such an historic conquest such as a modern, final siege of Terra. We can't number these, but let's keep them in mind moving forward. These forces will doubtless be supplemented by billions, perhaps even trillions of demons and cultist allies. We can also assume that even were Abaddon to not bend the knee to the Pantheon before executing plans to take Terra, that the Four would still provide champions and forces to aid in his campaign. They want the Emperor to fall after all, but it just may not be exactly the way they'd like. But I do believe they would aid Abaddon. This means the most savage, ancient, potent demonic legions and choirs, as well as their champions, no doubt would also march on the throne world. Do you believe Scarbrand, Kabanda, Shalaxi, and Kairos Fateweaver would be present in some way during such a monumental war? To put this into perspective, when Khorne's legions struck out at Terra, namely the Lion's Gate where the fighting was thickest, over 2 of the 4,000 Custodes present, led by Trajan Valoris, were killed, even though they fought besides the likes of a newly resurrected Rabute Guilliman and a contingent of Grey Knights, demon-banishing specialists. Is Segmentum Solar better prepared now for a concerted surprise attack? And so we come to wildcards. As we stated in our video regarding Leviathan's piercing of the Sanctus line, a great number of Tyranid bioforms have gained entry into Segmentum Solar from Pacificus, and we know for a fact that Tyranid menace are drawn to psychic beacons like locusts to a farmer's crops, with the Emperor of Mankind being the largest psychic beacon in the galaxy. I doubt, however, that Chaos forces would come into conflict with Tyranid biofleets for the simple reason that they would be approaching the throne world from opposite sides of Sol, Were Abaddon's forces to cross through the Nachman Gauntlet, for instance, they would approach from this direction, in the north, whilst Leviathan makes his way from the west. And whilst this is promising in the short term for the Imperium's now closest enemies, they will doubtless need to trade blows soon enough. This, and whilst Imperial military assets are sorely stretched on every conceivable front within Imperium Sanctus, surely the sheer quantity of potentially empire-ending threats are too much for the sparse resources the Imperium has available to endure. It is clearly stated within the Dark Imperium novels and subsequent titles that Imperium Sanctus is at breaking point in its current state. In this video, we even detailed how an Ultramarines captain, reflecting on Leviathan's presence in Sol, stated the only way to combat such an imposing threat would be for Guilliman to retreat from the Imperium's efforts of pushing back chaos close to the Rift, resulting in hard-won systems falling back into the great enemy's hands almost instantly. Were forces such as these gathered for a full assault on the Imperium's seat of power, what assets are even available to repel them? Now, it's my opinion only, but I believe the best way to combat both looming threats would be to stage an ultimate defense on the throne world as Dawn did so long ago, devising battle zones within Sol to slow down the enemy at key positions, similar to the 5 spheres of defense during the Heresy to waylay the oncoming Tyranid horde. These could take the form of robbing the horde of viable food sources, such as destroying planets in their path, a tactic Inquisitor Cryptman has utilised recently. However, in current lore regarding Rabute Guilliman's whereabouts, which we detailed in this video that you can find linked in the description, Rabute Guilliman is about to make a crossing into Nihilus, meaning neither returned Primarch would likely be on hand to come to Terra's aid. But of course, this is assuming Abaddon were to attack very soon, and not sometime in the future, when Rabute and the Line have reunited and are possibly within Sol once more. It would take far more than 2 Primarchs to stand in the face of 1 million corrupted Astartes and their allies, however. Whilst loyalist forces within Nihilus have their own responsibilities to see to, the only help I believe will be available is that of the filthy Xenos. Yes, the Silent King himself. For isn't Zarek's ultimate goal to utilise humanity as shells to reverse the Necrontyr biotransference? Were mankind to lose Terra, the Silent King's schemes would be in jeopardy, for not only would mankind's empire be subsequently picked off by its many enemies, were the Emperor and in turn the Astronomicon to fall, but the Imperium and Necron's common enemies would grow in strength immensely, with Abaddon effectively ruling the entire galaxy, and the Tyranids, were they to absorb the Emperor? Well, who even knows, but nothing good if you're not a Tyranid. And so the stage is set with the forces of chaos posed to steamroll their way through Sol itself, with very little to stand in their way compared to the days of the Heresy. The Tyranid menace gorge themselves on what are the most ancient worlds of mankind's galaxy-spanning empire, those within Sol itself. If the day comes we're able to upgrade our editing resources to properly convey how a siege on Terra itself may play out, we'll do it in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, if you'd like to support us to be able to create content such as that, simply subscribing, liking, sharing, or hitting the notifications button helps immensely, whilst those who would like to support us more directly have the option of Patreon available. These are the 3 tiers of membership available, and we've made sure these are as value-adding as possible, so feel free to give them a squiz. And if you want to be a part of our growing community, jump on over to Discord to hobby together or discuss the lore of this amazing setting. I will add we're catching up as a community this coming week to do some hobbying together live, so feel free to swing by and join in. Okay, the point of view you've been waiting for, the winner of this model, Space Marine Captain with Jump Pack. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for all your comments on how you would use this guy. I love the hobby aspect of 40k and really enjoyed learning how this guy would lead so many of the Emperor's finest. And the lucky hobbyist is James Kilt 555. Congratulations, mate. Good on ya. Just shoot an email to me. You'll find my address in the description of our videos. When you do so, I'll ask you for a particular proof it's you, and we'll get this sent straight to you. I'm sorry for those who are disappointed it wasn't them, but you've got to be in it to win it, and this is just the first giveaway, so hang in there. I'd also like to say a massive thanks to our Patreons who have recently signed up. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support. If you've been enjoying our content, please make sure you show your support by subbing, liking and commenting. We'd really like to grow the channel, but we need your support to do it. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take it easy and have a good one.